In the icy waters off Alaska and the North Pacific, there lives a creature so prized that it is often called the crown jewel of seafood. The king crab is more than just a meal. It is a luxury, a symbol of wealth and a source of pride for the fishermen who risk their lives to bring it ashore. These crabs are giants of the deep. A single leg can weigh nearly a pound, and a whole crab can stretch across the deck of a small boat. Their meat is firm, sweet, and unlike anything else the sea provides. Restaurants around the world compete to serve it, and customers are willing to pay hundreds of dollars for just a taste. But behind every king crab that reaches the dinner table lies a story of extreme effort, innovation, and risk. To begin, we must understand the environment. The Bering Sea is one of the harshest places on Earth. Here, waves rise. Like walls, storms can appear out of nowhere, and ice forms quickly on the decks of ships. Temperatures plunge far below freezing, and the darkness of winter lingers for months. Yet this is the kingdom of the king crab, and it is where fishermen set out each season to earn their living. Unlike many other fisheries, crab season is not open year-round. It is a tightly regulated short window, sometimes just a few weeks, when crews must capture their quota. That pressure turns every trip into a race against time. The reward: a catch that can be worth millions. The risk lives lost to storms, machinery, and the unforgiving cold. Out on the deck, the work begins long before the first pot hits the water. Fishermen stack massive steel traps, each weighing hundreds of pounds, coated with rubber and mesh that can survive weeks beneath the sea. They are baited with fish like herring or cod, their scent designed to lure crabs from the dark ocean floor. Once prepared, the pots are dropped overboard one by one, connected to long lines that disappear into the freezing depths. This is not guesswork. Captains use sonar, GPS mapping, and decades of intuition to choose where to set their gear. King crabs are not evenly spread across the ocean. They move in waves as they migrate along the seabed. A wrong call could mean empty pots and wasted fuel. What makes modern crab fishing extraordinary is the role of robotic and mechanical systems. Hydraulic cranes and automated haulers pull the pots back on deck. Once the line is hooked, the entire pot, now filled with hundreds of pounds of crab, is lifted in a matter of seconds. Fishermen no longer muscle the traps by hand as they did in the early days. Instead, robotic arms swing them across the deck, slamming them into place while the crew braces against the impact. But efficiency does not mean safety. Every step is dangerous. A wave crashing over the rail can sweep a man away. A snapped line under tension can cut like a knife. And when ice builds up on deck, machinery jams, ropes freeze, and simple mistakes can turn fatal. This is why the crab fishery has long been considered one of the most dangerous jobs in the world. On deck, once the pot lands, the crew scrambles to sort. Crabs are measured and inspected quickly. Only males above a certain size are kept females, and juveniles are returned to the water to preserve the population. This selective process is what keeps the industry sustainable, but it requires speed and precision. The deck becomes a blur of movement, crabs clattering into holding tanks, bait reset, and the pot swung back out to sea. Every pot is a gamble. Sometimes it comes up nearly empty, a handful of crabs wandering inside. Other times it bursts with life legs and claws clashing against the steel. The difference between profit and loss often hangs on these moments. Multiply this by hundreds of pots over days and weeks, and you can see why each decision at sea matters. Once the crabs are pulled from the sea, the clock starts ticking. King crab is highly perishable, and the journey from ocean floor to dinner plate must be carefully managed to maintain both quality and safety. Onboard live crabs are stored in chilled seawater tanks that circulate continuously. The temperature must be carefully balanced, cold enough to slow metabolism, but not so cold that it stresses the crabs. This stage is delicate. Even minor mistakes can cause mortality, and every crab lost represents hundreds of dollars gone in an instant. When the catch is unloaded, at pork processing plants take over. Some crabs are sold live, often destined for high-end restaurants in Asia or North America, where diners pay a premium for freshness. Others are cooked flash frozen and packaged almost immediately after landing. This freezing technology locks in flavor and texture, allowing crab legs to travel thousands of miles without losing quality. Logistics are another major cost driver. Air freight, refrigerated trucking, and specialized cold chain infrastructure all add to the final price. A king crab leg you see in a luxury restaurant may have traveled halfway across the globe under strict temperature control. That complexity explains why even before it reaches the customer's plate, the value of king crab has multiplied several times. But the price is not just about freshness, it is also about regulation. Every shipment is tracked, inspected, and verified for sustainability. Fishermen must comply with strict quotas and licensing rules, while buyers pay premiums to secure certified legal crab, rather than risk penalties with illegal catches. This regulatory framework keeps the species viable, but raises the cost of doing business for everyone involved. King crab isn't just seafood, it's an economic powerhouse tied to global demand, strict regulation, and logistical costs that few other fisheries face. First, consider scarcity. Unlike farmed fish, such as salmon or tilapia, king crab cannot be mass-produced in aquaculture systems. They are wild-caught in limited numbers, with catch quotas tightly regulated to prevent overfishing. That built-in scarcity means every pound is already valuable before it even leaves the sea. Second, labor and risk play a massive role. Crab fishing in Alaska and the North Pacific is famously one of the most dangerous jobs in the world. Crews spend weeks in freezing conditions battling storms, ice, and the sheer physical strain of hauling pots that weigh hundreds of pounds. High wages, insurance costs, and safety gear all contribute to the final retail price of the crab. wrong. Third, global demand drives prices even higher. Markets in Japan, South Korea, China, and the United States compete fiercely for the limited supply. In Tokyo or Seoul, a single large leg of red king crab can cost more than a fine steak. In upscale US restaurants, full platters can fetch hundreds of dollars. This international bidding war ensures that prices remain high year after year. Finally, think about the supply chain. From specialized vessels equipped with robotics, to onshore processing plants, to refrigerated cargo planes crossing oceans, every step is capital intensive. The crab you see on your plate carries with it the cost of high-tech gear, regulatory oversight, and global logistics. It's a classic case of supply and demand intersecting with danger and luxury. King crab is scarce, costly to catch, expensive to ship, and in demand worldwide. That's why it can command prices of $40, $60, even $100 per pound, depending on the season and market. When you finally sit down to eat king crab, you're not just tasting seafood, you're experiencing a story that stretches from the stormy Bering Sea to the world's finest dining tables. Across the globe, king crab is seen as a symbol of celebration and prestige. In Japan, it's featured during New Year feasts with steaming hot pots filled with crab legs shared among families. In South Korea, live king crab is displayed in tanks outside restaurants, drawing crowds eager to enjoy its sweet, delicate meat, prepared within minutes of being chosen. In the US, from Alaskan crab shacks to Michelin-starred restaurants in New York, it represents the pinnacle of ocean dining, a dish to mark anniversaries, business deals, or special milestones. But part of what makes it so expensive is how little of the crab is truly usable. A king crab may weigh 10 to 20 pounds, yet only a fraction, the legs and claws, provide the prized meat. That concentration of value makes every bite feel rare, almost like savoring a delicacy on par with truffles or Wagyu beef. And then there's the flavor itself. King crab meat has a natural sweetness, a firm but tender texture, and a richness that requires almost no seasoning. Steamed with butter, grilled over charcoal, or folded into gourmet pasta, every preparation highlights its luxurious taste. For chefs, it's a canvas that can be kept simple or elevated into artistry. In the end, the price tag isn't just for the crab. It's for the journey, the danger faced by fishermen, the precision of robotic harvesting systems, the icy logistics chain, and the cultural meaning attached to the dish. Eating king crab is like tasting a piece of the ocean's frontier, wild, scarce, and deeply human.